We've done second method. You are a crazy guy. So please go to your slides on page 80. When you are the young guy. So we want to tell you when you are the young guy, then how we use our PPE. First year, we use more, right? So your depreciation expense will be higher. Your value will be decreased more. How about your second year? You are getting older, so your depreciation expenses will be lower. To last year, your value will be decreased lowest. Depreciation expense will be lowest. Okay? So for this method, when you are the young guy, you will find out this is the pattern. First year will be highest. Then decrease over years to last year. Last year you will have the lowest expense. Okay? This method for young guy, we call it declining balance method 余额递减法 declining balance method 余额递减法 Also, we call it accelerated depreciation expense 加速折旧法 accelerated depreciation expense 加速折旧法 They are the same. So sometimes we call it declining balance method 余额递减法 Sometimes we call it accelerated depreciation expense 加速折旧法 Okay? So this method when you are the young guy, so remember, first year you should have the highest depreciation expense. Okay? So this is our pattern. Higher depreciation expense and in the earliest year. Lower depreciation expense in your later year. Okay? So this is our expectation. So have you heard about that? For new car, the first day when you drive the new car, your car's value decreased 50%. 车子一落地，价值减少一半 right? So it meets this situation. When the new car, new PP, usually your value would be decreased more. Then when your PP getting older, then its value will be decreased lower. Okay? So you sometimes for new PP will be this situation. Okay? So based on this, how we get the number? Remember, this is what we want. So what we want? First year, highest. Last year, lowest. So remember, in order to get the result we want, so the formula will be different from the last two methods. The formula here is totally different from the last two methods. Okay? So how to get the result we want? So what's the result we want? We want to get the annual depreciation expenses decreasing over years. Okay? So each year your depreciation expenses getting lower and lower. Okay? So this is what we want. Each year your depreciation expenses is getting lower. So this is our purpose. This is what we want. Okay? So decrease over years. (折旧费用每年逐渐降低) Okay? In order to get the result, then that's why we use the formula right here. So what's the formula we are going to use? Beginning book value times constant depreciation rate. Okay? So beginning book value 起初账面价值 How to get the beginning book value? Do you remember? How to get the book value? 账面价值 Cost minus accumulated depreciation. So for book value, do you know for your book value, the value will be decreased over years, right? When you use your PP's value will be decreased over years, right? So did you find out? That's why we use book value right here, because we want to achieve our purpose. So that's why we use this way, beginning book value. So book value have this situation. Book value decrease over years. So based on this, we can get our purpose. Okay? So use book value because book value decrease over years. That's why we use book value, we could achieve our purpose result. We want to get depreciation expenses decrease over years. Okay? Any questions? So how to get book value? Remember? Go to next slide, page 83. Page 83 told you how to get the book value. Cost minus accumulated depreciation, we got book value, right? How about beginning? Beginning is the first day, right? So beginning means ending book value from last year. So you can get the number from last year. Ending book value. From last year. (去年期末账面值) Okay, so based on beginning book value times what? Constant depreciation rate. Constant means the same for each year. So I use the same depreciation rate for each year. Depreciation rate 折旧率. So what does it mean? Depreciation rate told you how many percentage of your PP's value decrease for each year. So depreciation rate 折旧率. So what does it mean? Means how many percentage of PP's value? How many percentage of value decrease for each year? How many percentage of your value decrease for each year? For example, depreciation rate 折旧率 20%. So what does it mean? PP's value decrease 20% for each year. So your PP's value decreased 20% for each year. So every year 20%, 20%, 20%. Okay? So there's a depreciation rate. Constant means what? The same. We use the same percentage for each year. Constant 固定的. Means what? The same for each year. Okay, so based on this, we will say, okay, based on book value times some percent. So based on your book value, we say, okay, 20%. So your book value, you will have a 20% value decrease for each year when you use it. Okay, so 20% for each year, totally the same. Any questions? So do you know the meaning? So based on the book value times how many percent value decrease, right? So that's how we got depreciation expense. Depreciation expense told you how much. Okay? Any questions? If you don't have any questions, we want to tell you percentage, how to get the percentage by yourself. Okay? So how to get the percentage? Some number times straight line depreciation rate. Straight line depreciation rate 直线法下的折旧率。So some number times straight line depreciation rate. Straight line depreciation rate 直线法下的折旧率。OK, straight line method 直线法下的折旧率。So what does it mean? It's 1 divided by useful life, right? So what does it mean? If you expect to use your PP 5 years, useful life 5 years, so each year your value decrease how many percentage? 1 divided by 5, right? So 20%. So first year 20%, second year 20%, third year 20%, fourth year 20%, 5 year 20%, totally 100%. Okay, so straight line depreciation rate is how many percentage our value decrease for each year. But remember, straight line means what? Each year the same, right? Okay, so use 1 divided by useful life means each year your value decrease how many percentage. Okay, then times some number y based on how you use your PP. If you use your PP more, your value decrease more, right? So first number right here depends on how fast your company's PP value decrease. How fast? If you use more, you will decrease more fast, right? So it could be 1.5, could be 1.75, could be 2, depends on your company. So this number for questions, we will tell you the numbers. For quiz, for midterm exam, don't worry, we will tell you the number. Why? Because this number, how much, depends on each company. So how fast? If you think more fast, your company's PP decrease, then you will choose 2, right? If you think slower than others, then you will choose lower number. Okay, so don't worry about the first number. So we use that to determine how fast the value decrease. Okay, so first number right here, we use it to determine how fast value decrease. Okay, so based on beginning book value times depreciation rate, some percentage, so we could find out our depreciation expense. Any questions? So did you find out? For young guy, for this method, the formula is quite different from the last 2 methods because we want to get our purpose. So what's our purpose? Annual depreciation expense decrease over years. That's our purpose. So we want to get our purpose is what? Is this one, annual depreciation expense decrease over years. Okay? Any questions? If your company choose 2, for this number 2, we give it another name. Only for 2, we give it special name. Okay? If you decide to choose 2, we call it double. So the name will be double declining balance method. Did you find out? We have double. So double 倍数 means you decide to choose 2. Okay? Okay, any questions? No problem? If you don't have any questions, so please go to your note on page 27. Page 27. We use the same case, but right now you are the young guy. So we use declining balance method 余额递减法. So go to your note on page 27. Okay, on your note on page 27, did you find out? We use the same case. Cost $13,000. Residual value 1,000. Useful life 5 years or 100,000 miles. Okay, but right now you are the young guy, so we use declining balance method 余额递减法. So how many times? What's the number we choose? Here, did you find out? Double. Double told you which number we decide to choose it? 2. Okay? So double told you decide to choose 2. 倍数. So means you decide to choose 2 times. 2倍. Okay? So, based on beginning book value times what? Constant depreciation rate. 固定折旧率, right? So, constant depreciation rate. 固定折旧率. How to get it? Here we told you double, right? So it's what? 2 times 1 divided by useful life, right? Then you can get how many percentage? Okay? So how many percentage? 1 divided by useful life. So in this case, how many years? 5 years, right? So could you get constant depreciation rate, 固定折旧率, how many percentage? Okay? After I do the math, I note is 40%. So 40% means what? Each year, your PP's value decrease 40%. Okay? So each year, your PP's value decrease 40%. Yeah. Okay, I know 40%. 40% how much? So you have to finish your table. Find out 40% how much, right? So how to get how much? Beginning book value times 40%. I know the value decrease how much, right? Okay, please finish by yourself. Are you done for table? Do you have any questions for this table? You should have. You should have the problem. When you done this table, what's the problem? What's the number for your last number? Your PP's value on the last year, how much you got? Is 1,000? It's not. Why? Based on the formula, you finish the whole tables, you cannot get 1,000. So, after you've done this table, how to get this table? Remember, based on beginning book value, how to get your beginning book value? Here times 40%. You got book value, right? Beginning book value means the book value last year. So use last period's book value times 40%. You can get annual depreciation expense, right? So use last book value times 40%. You will get this year's accumulated depreciation. Okay, so that's how you find out the number for each year. Based on last book value times 40%, you can get your annual depreciation expense. So use the formula, you can get each number. But the problem is, when you use the formula, last number will not be residual value. You should be very careful. That's why always ask you to be careful for the last number. Should be residual value 1,000. But for this method, you cannot get 1,000 based on the formula. Based on the formula, you cannot. So this method quite special. Last year is not based on the formula. I know this one should be 1,000. Based on this 1,000, I figure out the other two. Okay? So this method, you should be careful. Based on residual value, then you have to use residual value to get the other two numbers. Okay? 反推。Based on residual value to get the other two. Okay? So it's quite special for this method. That's why always last year should be your residual value because that's your expectation. So did you find out? Previous years, 2028, you had a book value 1,628. But last year, only 1,000. So what does it mean? We expect the value decrease 685. Okay? So compare 2028 and 2029. You will note your value decrease how much. So this is 2028 compared to 2029. You know the value decrease 685. Okay, any questions? If you don't have any questions, please finish page 28. Use the number you have right here. Finish page 28. Okay, any questions? For third method, young guy, declining balance method 余额递减法。After you got the numbers for this table, you just use it to do a counting job, right? So prepare a journal entry. Remember, the only difference is you should find out first year depreciation expense how much? $5,200. Second year depreciation expense how much? $3,120, right? Okay, after we got the numbers, then prepare your two financial statements. Okay, so statement of comprehensive income 综合损益表 only for 1 year's number. Okay, balance sheet, the numbers are accumulated. So don't forget, you should find out the number for your second year. $8,320. How to get it? First year plus second year. First year, 5,200. Second year, 3,120. Okay, any questions? The residual value, why is 1,000? Because that's our expectation, our estimate on the first day. Like what? Useful life, why 5 years? When you got your calculate the first day, look at it, and I think, oh, I'm going to use how many years? I'm going to use it 4 years. After graduate, I don't want it. So you expect useful life 4 years. At the same time, you will think after 4 years, how much it will have if I sell it. So I bought it 1,000. I expect after 4 years, maybe I want to sell it to anyone, maybe 100. So my expectation residual value 100. So all the numbers useful life residual value, that's my estimate expectation right now, right here. It's true? Of course it's not. But you know, you want to get the actual number only when? On that day, you really don't want it. You sell it. You will know the numbers, but impossible. So most of cases, we don't know the number. You have to predict, expect. Okay? Okay, any questions? No problem? If you don't have any questions, again, we expect when we buy the PPE, January 1st, right? But for real case, impossible on January 1st. So let's go back to the same case. If we buy the PPE on April 1st, not January 1st. So go to your slide on page 89. Most of cases, for real case, impossible on January 1st, right? So here is more real case. You buy it on April 1st. Again, April 1st. So remember, you have to consider how many months you use it, right? So here, this case is 9 months. So be careful about the first year. It's only 9 months. How about last year? Be careful for declining balance method 余额递减法 for young guy. How we get the number for last year? We use beginning balance compared to your residual value, right? because always this should be your residual value. Remember how to get your last year's number. How to get your last year's number? Based on residual value, compare with book value from previous years, right? Compare these two numbers, book value from last year to your residual value. Based on these two numbers, you can get your depreciation expense for last year. Okay? So, be careful for your last year. Still the same. Compare book value from last year with residual value. You can get depreciation expense for last year. Okay? So be careful about your first year and last year. This is how we find out the numbers. Okay? Any questions? Then please go to your notes on page 29. Finish page 29. When you buy the PP not on first day, January 1st, so you should be very careful about your first year and last year. How to get the number for your first year and last year. If you finish page 29, please also finish page 30. 30, we use three methods. So we want to compare these three methods. Finish page 29, also finish page 30. So we use three methods. Straight line method, the number on your page 21. Unit activity method on your page 24. Yeah, page 24. Declining balance method on your page 27. Finish page 29 and page 30. For page 29, the difference, you should be very careful, is the first year. First year, how many months you use it? Only 9. So you should be careful for only 9 months. Last year, always the same. Determine your residual value based on residual value to figure out the other numbers. Okay, any questions? First year, you purchase PP on April 1st. So April 1st to December 31st, only 9 months. So don't forget, it's not 1 year, it's 9 months. Last year, be careful. Young guy, declining balance method, 余额递减法, we use different formula. So always you cannot get residual value. So you have to make it become residual value 1000 and based on this 1000 to figure out the other two numbers. Because the formula. For this formula, we didn't use residual value. Okay. For last two methods, we use residual value. Cost minus residual value, right? So that's why we can get residual value on last day. Okay, finish it. Then, any questions for page 29? For real case, you didn't buy anything on January 1st, usually. Then, finish page 30. Okay. Page 30, did you find out? You just copy the numbers from page 21, 24, and 27. From these, did you find out anything? Remember, we've mentioned, do you know total value decrease? Yes, we know total value decrease how much? Cost minus residual value, right? So we know total value decrease how much? $12,000. So our problem is not to get $12,000. We know total value decreased $12,000. So $12,000 is your total value decrease. What we call depreciable cost, right? 可折旧成本。Okay, so our problem is not $12,000 because we know it's $12,000. Our problem is we try to figure out the number for each year. So using different methods. First method, how to get the number for each year. The same, right? So we allocate the number to each year equally. So you will get the number for depreciation expenses the same. How about declining balance method, 余额递减法? Young guy, right? So what's our expectation? First year, the highest. Last year, the lowest, right? So did you find out? You got the result we want, right? So declining balance method, our expectation is first year should be highest. Then decrease over years. Last year should be the lowest. The depreciation expenses decrease over year. Okay? How about unit or activity method? 活动量法。Crazy guy, right? So did you find out any pattern? No, no pattern. Maybe higher, maybe lower. Not sure. Depends on how many units you use it, right? So when you look at the numbers for each year, you cannot find out the pattern. So you will find out no pattern right here. Okay, any questions? So that's what we want. We want to get a number for each year. Then how to get a number for each year depends on how you use the PPE. Okay, any questions? No problem? If you don't have any questions, could you tell me, no matter which method, the numbers right now you find out, all the numbers right here, they are true number or they are estimate, not true number. All the numbers right now you find out they are not true. Okay? Only true number, actual number is what? Cost. Only cost is true. Others totally they are not true. They are your estimate. So all the numbers here you find out they are estimate. So all number right here they are estimate. Okay, any questions? No problem? Okay, so we've done the first year. When you got the PPE, you had to do this kind of job. Later, we will tell you, what if after you use the PPE 2 years, you find out something changed. So what should we do? Do some adjustment. Okay, so take a break.